finally I've been thinking about for a long time, and I'd love to do that, and I don't feel I've made the film that I really have in my heart. And
what is that? Can you are you at liberty to say?
it's
Not really.
original screenplay. It's sort of as though it's as original in terms of like the way the conversation was just a story, except it's kind of as big as Apocalypse Now in terms of its scale.
He's talking about Megalopolis, which was just released in theaters in 2024, 27 years after that interview, and about 42 years after he first started working on it. In those 42 years, Francis Ford Coppola has talked about this film a lot, to the point that it became somewhat notorious, one of the great unmade films by a great filmmaker. And now, it's here. It's astonishing, really, to hold on to an idea for that long and finally see it come to fruition. Now, this being a film history channel, one with an interest in the sometimes tumultuous moments in Coppola's career, I had to know the story behind his white whale. I dug into biographies and newspapers to learn all I could about the history of Megalopolis in order to prepare myself to actually see it. So, in this video, I'll tell you everything I've learned, why the film took so long to make, the ideas behind it, the various controversies surrounding its release, and finally, my thoughts on how it turned out. It's not as if Francis Ford Coppola was sitting at home writing Megalopolis like this for 40 years.
Now let's see how it looks so far.
He worked on it in fits and starts, here and there, alternatingly putting it next in his queue before moving it to the side again. He didn't do this out of a lack of interest in the project, he did it because he had to. In reality, the history of Megalopolis is a story about Coppola himself, informed by his own ambitions, setbacks, times of fortune, and times of loss. To understand Megalopolis, we have to understand what Coppola was up to when he first conceived of it. And I'd argue that Megalopolis begins here, at 1040 North Las Palmas Avenue, the home of Zoetrope Studios. Fans of The Godfather probably know all about the creative battles he famously fought against Paramount during the making of The Godfather. They didn't want to cast Pacino or Brando, they wanted it to be set in the 1970s. Suggestions that, in hindsight, feel sinful because we know Coppola's instincts were right, but at the time, to the studio, must have seemed like reasonable solutions to practical budgetary concerns. They're frustrating examples of business stepping on an artistic vision. The history of film is full of instances like that. It happened to Coppola a lot, not just on The Godfather. It happens to everybody. But Coppola, more than most, made it his personal mission to overcome or sidestep the corporate aspect of studio filmmaking.
I don't understand this idea that certain movies can be made and certain movies can't be made. Why can't whatever is alive be made, you know? So I tried to live my life in a way that, for me at least, that would be possible, that whatever I wanted to do, I could. I guess what I'm saying in a sentence is that I tried not to adhere to the rules and try to live by my own rules.
So on the heels of the success of Apocalypse Now, a very chaotic shoot, Coppola purchased a 10-acre lot in Hollywood, California. This would become the headquarters of Zoetrope Studios, his attempt to create an ideal filmmaking environment, a place where artists would be given free rein to experiment, explore new technologies, foster talent, and produce personal projects. No shareholders, no middlemen in suits with feedback that they didn't ask for, just filmmakers coming together like a family to make films they actually wanted to make.
Francis's idea was to try on a small scale to bring back the old studio system, whereby you have actors under contract and certain craftspeople and artists of a variety of experiences, and we all get together in one confined area to make film.
It was, by all accounts, a creative hub unlike anything else in the industry.
You must have a home. You must have a place that says 8 o'clock we're all coming and we're going to do it, and after this picture we're going to do another picture.
and that you are developing new talent and you are making use of the old talent and that it is a community.
Sam Wasson details the lean yet energetic early years of Zoetrope Studios, the lot buzzing with excitement and possibility, in his book The Path to Paradise. Coppola had more ideas than he knew what to do with. He wanted to pioneer an electronic cinema to plan how scenes would look in advance. He wanted to give his contract employees a share of the studio's profits. He wanted filmmaking legends to mentor up-and-coming talent. He wanted to establish programs for high school students who are interested in filmmaking to receive hands-on training. He wanted to start a theater division that would not only develop acting talent, but also perform for the local community. He wanted to screen his favorite films for the public, free of charge. Some of these ideas never came to be, but amazingly, even in Zoetrope's short existence, some of them did. There really were little kids running around learning how to become filmmakers.
Maybe you could light the candle to show that, that new hope is springing.
This is good.
Filmmaking legends really were hired explicitly to lend their expertise to younger artists. Gene Kelly, for example, was brought on to lead Zoetrope's musical unit, where he mentored Kenny Ortega in choreography. So if you enjoyed this music video or learned this dance as a kid, you might just owe a teensy bit of thanks to Gene Kelly and Francis Ford Coppola. This was, to Coppola, the beginning of a new Hollywood, where artists, not businessmen, were in charge. John Lewis, who wrote a history of Zoetrope Studios, told Variety the larger significance of Coppola's attempt to create an alternative studio in the very heart of Hollywood was that it carried with it the promise of an American auteur cinema, in which the director might someday control the product from development to release. It was, though it might not have seemed so at the time, one of the boldest moves in the history of the movie business. Zoetrope Studios' first project would be One from the Heart, a musical romantic drama about a couple that breaks up on the night of their 5th anniversary. Both head to downtown Las Vegas, where they meet potential partners who seemingly represent everything their previous relationship had lacked. It was a lovely, if unexpected, change of pace from the filmmaker whose extraordinary streak in the 1970s had become stuff of legend. Unfortunately, One from the Heart would not continue that streak. Instead, it would become known as one of the most monumental flops of all time. Rather than film on location, Coppola wanted to recreate the glamour of Las Vegas on Zoetrope's soundstage, ballooning the film's budget from $15 to $23 million. I mean, look at all these lights. Gorgeous. Expensive. This venture might have been possible, but the film's investors suddenly backed out, and Coppola had to scramble to find new money. He tried everything and anything to secure funding, but deal after deal fell through, and no major studio wanted to help the rebellious new artist-run studio in town. So Coppola took out millions in personal loans at an extremely high interest rate, putting up his home as collateral, selling the rights to upcoming Zoetrope projects, even borrowing money from high-profile industry figures like Michael Eisner and Barry Diller, who were sympathetic to his cause. Despite the fact that they barely had the funding to last a week, Coppola barreled ahead with filming anyway.
This notion of me being a risk taker isn't really so true. It's not that I'm a risk taker, it's just that once we're making the film, we don't want to stop, and we sort of, maybe in a naive way, think that, oh, it'll all work out. I mean, we say, let's do the show and worry about it when it's all over.
Yeah.
And that's really how it is. It's the risk part is the least important. We're not thinking about that. We're thinking about the film.
Of course, the studio couldn't keep up with its payroll either. Shockingly, however, Coppola had seemingly cultivated such a genuine spirit of togetherness at the studio that more than 500 employees voted to continue working on the film even though they were not being paid, virtually unprecedented in Hollywood labor annals. After MGM and Paramount both dropped out, Columbia agreed to distribute the film, and a Canadian oil real estate tycoon provided a much-needed infusion of cash. But getting the film made was only the beginning of Coppola's problems. The press had become obsessed with chronicling this saga, disaster by disaster.
A melodrama is currently playing itself out in Hollywood that, for sheer emotionalism, rivals anything put on film. The embattled figure in this drama is director Francis Coppola, who once again finds himself waging a war to keep his dream financially afloat.
And I get it. I mean, what a story. This filmmaker who churned out 5 masterpieces in a row was risking everything, literally, in an attempt to buck the system once and for all. Francis had failed at last, falling from atop his pedestal because of his reckless disregard for the way things are usually done. Coverage was absolutely ruthless. Early public screenings proved unsuccessful too.
How many people did you talk to?
About 14, 15.
And how many didn't like it?
About 13.
And when the film was released in theaters, it didn't fare much better. Critics were unenthusiastic, and the box office receipts were even worse. After 20 days in theaters, it grossed about $800,000 on a $28 million budget. 1982 marked a new phase in Coppola's career. Because all of Zoetrope Studios' resources had been marshaled to create One from the Heart, the film basically had to succeed for the studio to survive. When it didn't, Coppola had no choice but to sell it. It was an extraordinary loss with cascading consequences. His dream of owning and running his own studio had died. His reputation took a massive hit. He told the Boston Globe, "Because I wanted my own studio, I think that was perceived by the majors as a hostile thing. It really wasn't. I really was more enthusiastic than anything else." Nonetheless, when Zoetrope collapsed, I think it was a relief that the example of directors owning their companies and having their own studios went by the wayside a bit. Worst of all, Coppola's financial situation looked dire. Indeed, he would spend over a decade recovering from the tremendous debt he incurred trying to bring One from the Heart to life, declaring bankruptcy 3 times in 9 years. It is in this context that Coppola began to work on the first drafts of Megalopolis. According to Michael Schumacher's biography of the filmmaker, he devoted the first couple of months to 1983 working on Megalopolis, producing 400 pages of notes and script fragments in a 2-month period. The book that inspired the screenplay couldn't have come to him at a better time. Around this time, Coppola read 12 Against the Gods by William Belitho, which, if you Google it now, is mostly famous for being one of Elon Musk's favorite books. Each chapter basically highlights larger-than-life characters throughout history, like Alexander the Great, Napoleon, and Lucius Sergius Catiline, a Roman politician who plotted and eventually attempted to overthrow the Roman Republic, but failed and was killed. That story, in particular, captured Coppola's attention and became the main inspiration for Megalopolis. After all, aren't there parallels between Rome and the United States? The founders read Roman philosophers after all, and hell, they even designed our capital to look like Rome. Historians sure see a parallel. Belitho
Tuxla se hizo Michael Oscar rodando pista
between the dying days of the Roman Republic and the United States grow more striking every year. To say that the present United States is the historical counterpart of Rome is too far-fetched, he wrote. To say that it will be extraordinarily like it in 100 years is an intelligent probability. Wait, when did he write this? 1929? And it's 2024? Cool. When most people learn about the Catiline conspiracy, they learn about it from the perspective of Cicero, the great Roman politician and orator who gave a series of 4 speeches denouncing Catiline's plot to overthrow the Republic. Because of those speeches, Catiline has spent a lot of time as a kind of historical punchline, his name being like shorthand for villainous flops. In recent years, however, historians have taken a more complex, revisionist approach to Catiline, and that's definitely the framing Coppola prefers. He explained to Vanity Fair, "I wondered whether the traditional portrayal of Catiline as evil and Cicero as good was necessarily true. In history, Catiline lost and was killed, and Cicero survived. But since the survivor tells the story, I wondered, what if what Catiline had in mind for his new society was a realignment of those in power? And could it have even been visionary and good, while Cicero, perhaps, could have been reactionary and bad?"
How often do you think about the Roman Empire?
I don't know, at least twice a day.
What? Look, I'm not a Roman history person, but even a
Hey,
cursory
Junior.
look
What's up,
at
homie?
Caroline's story is enough to suggest why Coppola might have identified with it, particularly in the early 1980s.
At least twice a day.
Bolitho described Cataline as ruined. His life had been typical of the fast young society man of the epoch.
I'm chilling.
That is, he had squandered madly, became mixed in
Decided to go
several
for a
unsavory
quick flight.
cases, and borrowed up to and beyond the hilt. The man was in massive debt. Listen to this speech Cataline gave to his followers. Since the government has fallen under the power and jurisdiction of a few, all the rest of us, however brave and worthy, are looked upon by them.
Flight Simulator 2024 came out. Well, not came out. They came out with an alpha test, and I'm part of it. But I got so frustrated with it because you have to set up your controllers again, and I can't figure out how to do it. So I quit, and now I'm back on 2020. But dude, that game looks gorgeous as fuck. It's insane. It looks beautiful. But I just can't figure out how to set up my controllers. So I moved on. I was like,
them as a mere mob, without importance or to be reckoned with, and under the heels of whom, if things were right, we should be able to frighten out of their minds. Hence,
I'm just impatient. I'm just impatient.
In their gift.
Yeah. I mean, I was in the game. I loaded.
Only snubs, threats,
and it would crash like twice.
Poverty. How long now, you high-spirited fellows, are you going to put up with this?
But haven't taken off yet.
To die trying to change the situation than to live tamely, putting up with their insolence in a wretched and uninteresting condition of poverty and obscurity? I swear success will be easy. We are young, our spirit is unbroken. Our oppressors, on the contrary, are only worn-out old millionaires. Therefore, we have only to make a beginning, and the rest will come about by itself.
It does support my sticks, but
absolutely drowning in debt, who sees
you have
the
to
status
fucking
quo of the
do
system around him as
everything,
unjust,
like,
and who registers confidently that if they're ambitious enough,
basically you have to map
they
your
have the power
controller
to change that system. Well, who does that sound like? In his book, Sam Wasson actually provides some of the first notes Coppola took about Megalopolis way back in 1983. Reading them, it is truly impossible not to interpret the screenplay
unfortunately,
as a comment about his relationship with the film industry.
Because the game is so new, so I'm just gonna wait.
Standing in for Coppola.
Until someone comes up with it.
Goes to a number of friends who would be in a position to guarantee his loans. And right now, at that time, nobody wants to extend themselves. Slowly, in the course of the film, Catalina literally goes broke and is filled with a tremendous amount of bitterness as to the nature of his debt and how he comes to be stuck with it. The more they consoled him and treated him as though he was not a has-been,
oh, shit.
the more he felt like one. 10 worst lists, snubs at banquets, cooling bank credit, mistreatment by former subordinates.
Tuxla, 6-9 Mike Oscar, despegando pista 3-2, rumbo al
was the drying
oeste.
of money.
Tuxla.
Rather than be upset about the bankruptcy or loss of his luxuries, he still sees it as a game. And what a wonderful opportunity to see the world from another point of view, that perhaps he's failed so dramatically that designing out of poverty will be the opportunity. Again, this is a story outline for what would become Megalopolis, not Coppola writing about himself. And yet, it is, isn't it? A filmmaker prone to more or less
a bunch of crows going crazy outside.
Coppola has a habit of depicting analogies to his own life in his films. It used to require some interpretation, but more recently he has basically been quoting his own interviews in his screenplays.
And I'm looking forward to really a lot of personal writing.
I want to write something for me, something personal.
Patrick Willems watched his entire filmography and made 2 videos that dig into this topic quite a bit, which I'll link in the description. So, Francis Ford Coppola had experienced a significant public failure, a big swing and a big miss, then found a book that seemed to articulate the frustrations he had felt as a singular individual who dreamt of a better way of doing things. And so, he began writing. By 1984, he had his first full draft and began talking publicly about the film, revealing plot details to the Los Angeles Times and explaining to Film Comment that the film would have an elaborate novelistic structure. His film would maintain that visionary man versus regressive system idea, but reimagine Cataline's story in modern-day New York City, sort of the way Apocalypse Now resituates Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness in Vietnam, with Cataline as an architect whose attempts to launch the city into a utopian, sustainable future by a mayor who would rather maintain the status quo. Utopia. This word comes up again and again when Coppola talks about Megalopolis. Now, most films that take place in the future or in an alternate timeline depict it as a dystopia. There's no water, the robots have taken over. Nobody seems to have much hope about humanity's future, and it seems like that's been the case for millennia, given that in Greek, utopia literally means no place, nowhere. It doesn't exist. Coppola, however, believes it's time we took the concept seriously. He said, "I want to make a film about utopia, about what it is. It's been ignored. Everyone just laughs at it. We don't even think about it." He defends this pondering of utopia in interview after interview, outlining the kinds of questions he hopes audiences will ask themselves as they consider what the future might look like. I'm trying to say, what's really possible? Do we have to live in this kind of pay-per-view world in which everybody's going to be in debt and a few people are going to own whatever the key resources are?
Dude,
or
late ass
are we
show.
going to live in a world that is
Really been on the gram.
created by
Hell yeah.
artists and scientists?
It looked crowded.
and is just
Was it
uplifting
crowded?
people because we could. Coppola asked himself these same questions when he created Zoetrope Studios, his utopia. And Cataline would dare ask them too, creating Megalopolis, a utopia for New Rome.
Sold out.
That
Holy
said,
shit.
Coppola is not a theorist. His ideas about utopia do not have a specific political or economic framework. Most of the time, when he talks about utopia, he talks about a nebulous, vague kind of freedom that relates to his personal experience. The freedom to ask questions, the freedom to do whatever you want, to act without authority figures hovering over you. And you can see where that might be a problem, though, right? Utopia can easily become anarchy or lead to abuses of power without oversight or accountability. Another major inspiration for Megalopolis comes to mind here, H.G. Wells' The Shape of Things to Come, which was adapted into a film in 1936. It's one of those rare works that attempts to depict utopia and how we might get
Dude,
there. Although
I don't know.
most of Wells' ideas, well, they definitely sound like they were written by a British person in the early 1930s.
It's gonna be...
sure enforcing the worldwide use of...
Ugh, this video's boring. It's gonna be so hard for me to leave this game. Especially because... Man, that other game is so fucking beautiful, but it's hard to set up right now. I wish it was easy, but... Uh-oh. Okay, going into the clouds now. No, dude, it's only 16 gigs. It's crazy. Like, all you need is just an internet connection, really. And that's it. Everything else is fucking AI, dog. Oh, wait, what the fuck? I'm gonna hit a mountain, aren't I? So that's why this thing was like, okay, you need to go over here and all the way down here. Oh, fuck it. Yeah, dude, it's freaking good. Here, hold on, let me see if I can... Damn, he was flying live earlier.
Well, this hello into the group. I'm sure I can change the avatar. I mean, I'm not some sort of a snow fox, but like, Do you know what I mean? So I think this is a new in-sim communication panel, not only for your ATC, but is it an intercom in which you either talk to a co-pilot? Because I have a feeling AI is coming into this, or is that an intercom to talk to a group? Wouldn't that be handy? Please, can you say my name? I'm begging you. Sales merchant, you're very welcome in. Intercom is to announce to the plane. Jeffrey, no, I have found a visual. How friggin' cool is that?
Dude, the tires get dirty now. Like the
That's
plane.
Full left rudder, and just oh Jesus, and try and balance the aileron. Oh no, someone's dead. Who fell over? Briggsy. See, Briggsy, you are special. Brilliant. Right.
Oh.
Notice on this ground we shouldn't get dust. So if we're not getting dust, we're going to be getting dirt.
Hello there.
Loads of dirt. Skyfly Darren, thank you for the follow.
So I really need to do what his.
Lower on mesh that hasn't been updated. But don't review the ground in which they're going to land. It could be soft, there could be rocks there, or it could be uneven or undulated or whatever. And just landing there could cause just
damage,
instant death, right? But they kind of have brought that into flights in 2024 because the ground is not as flat as it is in 2020. You can pretty much land anywhere you see it flat. The only thing that would throw us off in 2020 if we saw different terrain or like rolls and all this kind of cracking the scenery, right? But now it's quite different because the ground is using the standard mesh, but it's now put this 3D gadget over it, yeah? And you can even see with this kind of rough ground here, look. Bits of stone and bits of whatever, but it's all multi-level. There's all different little heights and stuff. Oh, look at this stage. The sounds and everything is brilliant.
Damn, I want to fly so bad. Ugh.
Oh, I'm hanging outside of the door. Do you see
Dude,
that?
gaming is back. Gaming is back in a big way, dude. Gaming is back.
3, 2.
Oh no, it's him.
Hey, only half of us died. That was pretty good.
There's a guy in the front.
Yeah. We come in the name of freedom and monetization. Oh my god. That's M14. This is the Uber I ordered. Thanks, bro. There's a GPS map on the fucking dashboard, and he actually updates. Oh, that's in it. Stop. Actually, drive, faster. It's fine. Ah. Wait, that's enemy. No, right? No, that's enemy. It looks pretty cool. Don't mind me, just do your thing. So cool.
The fuck?
You missed the spot. You missed the spot.
$5. $5. Oh, I'm hanging outside of the door. That's safe. Can you aim down further?
No.
Oh. Throw a grenade in there.
Elon Musk's PMC, bro. It's unlimited money. Oh, good hit. Or was that the tree? I'm not sure. That one missed.